One Piece live action, episode 2, The Man in the Straw Hats. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another breakdown episode of One Piece live action. We back, baby. We're on episode 2. You know us already, but hey, I'm Dano, aka Cobra Concept, and with me I've got
Garrett, aka Desperate Saint.
We are fans of One Piece, and we are taking each of these live action episodes. We're trying to break them down, trying to find some differences, trying to find some fun things that we didn't notice. If you, like we said on that last episode, if you did find something that we overlooked or that we got wrong, let us know. We're not pros at this, but we definitely just wanted to share some fun and talk about the show that we love.
Mm-hmm.
So let me, I did this on the last one. I didn't even write it down on this one. The start of this episode. Where's it at here? Episode 2. The Netflix description that they give us is, with his straw hat and ragtag crew, young pirate Monkey D. Luffy goes on an epic voyage for treasure in his live-action adaptation of the popular manga. That one's a little different from the first one. The first one kind of set the story. This one's just kind of like a
generic,
yeah. That one didn't give you a whole lot. The runtime of this episode is 55 minutes long. So a little shorter, almost 10 minutes shorter than the previous episode. So, Garrett, do you want to start us out here?
Yeah. So right at the beginning, we start off the episode, and it's back to like another flashback, and we've got young Luffy, who is now starting to practice the powers that he received from the fruit that he ate, that Shanks and them had. And you see him, he's just out there slinging arms, breaking furniture, and Makino is getting mad. She's like, "Why are you breaking this stuff?" And he's like, "Give me glue, I'll get it." But he's talking about, with this power now, I'll be the greatest pirate ever. And then you learn that these powers are called devil fruits. And devil fruits give people a very specific power, and no two devil fruits are ever the same. But there's a reason they have their names, and that's because the sea will turn its back on you when you consume a devil fruit. So you lose your ability to swim, and you lose all your powers in the water, is what you learn from Makino right off the rip. And then there's a funny note in here.
And before you go too much further, I had to look it up. I don't know how I didn't do this. The child of Monkey D. Luffy is portrayed by Colton Osario.
There we go. Colton Osario. Cool. But yeah, we want to give the shout out to him, because he does a really good job. He's actually killed it as Kid Luffy. But Dan put a pretty funny note in here. If y'all didn't notice, there's neon signs in the bar. Just kind of funny.
Just funny because you look at Windmill Village, and from the anime, it was totally like little bitty houses, not a whole lot of anything. Just a little small little community city type thing. And then the adaptation kind of has it as kind of like a seaport town, like that bar is kind of wide open and on the edge of town, and almost dock like it's on the dock.
Yeah, very islandish.
Yeah,
like islander vibes.
It's a whole lot different than what I expected. But it also makes no sense to me that there was neon signs there. I was so blown away by that. So sorry, I'll let you continue.
You're good. And that's just kind of throws you right in right there at the beginning. You hear all about your devil fruit stuff, and then boom, we're back to present time. The crew has just left Shellstown, where they had stolen the map, or actually not just the map. They stole the entire freaking safe from Axe Hand Morgan's office. And you can see Nami's down there, and she's got her ear to it, and she's trying to crack the code for the safe. And Luffy's running around and swinging on ropes and stuff, and she's telling him to be quiet. And it's one of my favorite parts of the scene. He goes down there and he just puts his head on her head and he's like, "You hear anything yet?" Like, "Are we in?"
And you kind of see a very important scene right after that when she knocks his hat off of his head and he scrambles, absolutely
Hmm.
scrambles, grabs his hat from going off the edge of the boat, and he turns and says, "Don't ever do that again. Don't touch my hat."
Yeah.
Which was funny. You saw the importance of that straw hat and how he wasn't going to let anything happen to it, even to those he called his friends. He said, "Don't touch my hat."
Yeah.
So
Um. So, anyways, so Nami cracks it open. They're getting loud, and you hear Zoro in the background. He's like, "Can you please just shut up?" He's like trying to sleep back there on the back of the boat. Um, but they pop the safe, and of course, first thing you notice is the little tube with the map of the Grand Line. A couple little Easter eggs kind of things in there.
blink if
You
you miss it
also
things.
see, yes, there's also a bounty poster, a wanted poster for a Kuro that Axiom Morgan actually referenced to that he captured and all this stuff. You see this. You see a card for the Baroque Works, which is identical to the card that they are trying to hand Zoro in
Mhm.
episode 1. And then you just see a pamphlet that says Absolute Justice Confidential on it. Which has something to do with the Marines, of course. Not really sure if that's an Easter eggish thing or not.
Mhm.
Um,
I wasn't 100% sure on that. I didn't know if that was like a, "Hey, you became a captain in the Navy. Here's your pamphlet. Don't lose it." Or if it was like a, "This is top secret. Don't lose it." You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
which is why you'd have it in there with stuff you'd want to keep hidden.
So keep it,
Um,
remember it. It might come back into play.
but they kind of look at the map and you see the East Blue. You see Reverse Mountain, which is one of the entrances into the Grand Line. You see the Red Line, and then you see the Grand Line, of course. So
Which is
cool to see, kind of jumble it all up, just like it's literally just the Grand Line. Like you kind of get to see how to get there, the
yeah.
stuff around it.
And it's cool to kind of see a portion of the world on a map finally. And it's
Mm-hmm.
one of those things that if you have time, go back, pause it, sit there and look at the map. You get a little bit of indication of some of the islands here in the East Blue, but you also kind of see the idea of the red line and the grand line and how
Mm-hmm.
that interacts. And for our new watchers and listeners, it's confusing. Don't get me wrong, it's really confusing.
Yeah.
And it'll be broken down for you shortly. And just right after we see that sign, we even get a little small breakdown from Nami, which was kind of cool. She basically explains, you've got your East Blue, your North Blue, your West Blue, and your South Blue, how it's cut in half by the Grand Line, and then you've got the red line that goes the other half.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Basically, what you need to know is we're in the East Blue, and we're visiting a few islands over here, and his goal is to make it into the Grand Line, which
Mm-hmm.
is where the treasure will be. So
Yep.
stick with us. We're gonna pursue the East Blue a little bit. We're not gonna give you any details about the Grand Line for the most part, except for names and whatnot. But they will come soon. They will come
And
soon.
Nami said kind of exactly how he broke it down. Her description of the Grand Line was bigger adventures, bigger riches, bigger pirates.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how and that's actually a really good explanation for the Grand Line.
Very true. Um, so like directly after we're like discussing the Grand Line, everything about it and whatnot, there's like this explosion outside, and I put in a couple questions because I was curious about it. Was it kind of like a booby trap? Was it a cannon? Was it some type of ability? I'm thinking maybe a cannon shot of some sort.
Mm-hmm. I
Um,
think so.
but basically, they walk outside of the cabin of their little ship and they realize that there is this red smoke or fog surrounding them. And they don't know what's going on. Instantly, Nami starts to feel lightheaded, goes down, and I think it clicks in Luffy's head. That's a gas. So he
Mhm.
runs over and grabs the map for the Grand Line, and in the weirdest way possible, shoves it down his throat. And
Eats it.
it's like one of those things where, like the people with swords and they eat the sword, you know what I'm saying? Like they have to stick the sword down their throat and try not to cut their windpipe or whatever.
Mhm.
Weird.
Yeah.
Absolutely weird. It threw me off. I was not expecting that. It was a great idea, but it also felt unnatural to me. I don't know if
Yeah.
it did for you, but I was like,
Well,
why?
because I was like, that's something Luffy would definitely do.
Well, yes, you're
Because
right.
I think and it's either stayed in the treasure chest or Nami kept it the whole time. Like in the beginning, she kept the map to the Grand Line because for her it's like more important to her than anybody or whatever.
Right. Um, but just the funny, just was odd. But anyways, we see as he eats the map, he looks up into the window and he sees a pirate ship coming at him with none other than the Buddy Pirates Jolly Roger on the sails. Um, right then and there, we go into the title theme where it says One Piece, and we get the coolest change I have
Mm.
seen in this show yet. The title of One Piece is in the theme of Buddy Pirates. You get the pink and the blue. You get his Jolly Roger in the O, and the I is actually his knife or one of
Yeah,
his knives.
it was sick.
It was so cool, and I was not expecting it. So now I really expect every single title sequence to have somebody else's Jolly Roger, and if it doesn't, I'm gonna be mad.
Yeah, I'm surprised they still haven't done like the like which I'd say we might get later on, but how it is and does a little one piece. It's all the knots and stuff, the ease, the anchor, whatever, and then you get like Luffy fall in for the eye.
Yeah, and he's the I. Yes.
Yeah. So that'd be cool. That was sick. I picked that up myself. I'm like, that was actually pretty dope. Cause like
Yeah.
Jolly Roger, and then it pans out and just like moves his Jolly Roger to more of like a I don't know, like a logo kind of thing, and then
Hmm.
swings like over to the it was sick. It was really dope.
It was very cool, and I hope people geek out as much as we did. I know my wife did. My full disclosure, my wife is not a One Piece fan. She has not sat there and watched One Piece like I have. And she's intrigued. She's sucked in. She's like, man, I can't wait to watch episode 3. We're gonna have to go watch it soon. She's like banging down the door trying to get us to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
She made the statement today. She said, "Oh my god, I just realized that the E at the end is an anchor," and
Yeah.
I think that's cool. I've known that, but for new viewers, it's cool to see things that you did not realize, such as the E in the
Mm-hmm.
in the One Piece. So, anyways, um, after that little title sequence, we get our heroes are trapped in some box. They're trying to flee. They're trying to get out of this box. They're trying to talk it over. What's going on? They think it's the Navy, and then Luffy comes out with, "No, it was pirates. I saw their Jolly Roger. I'm gonna talk it over. They're gonna be cool with it." Well, they were not cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
um, we finally get the box to open. We're in what looks to be like a circus tent of some sort. We see a lot of acts walking around doing their thing. We see Kabaji. We see him interacting on his unicycle. And then we see a character that I'm going to go ahead and tell you because I don't know if we said his name during that episode at all, but his name is Moji. He's in the anime, and there's actually this entire like arc or scene or whatnot where he is kind of a bad guy before Luffy meets Buggy. And Moji is actually a beast tamer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because he keeps a lion and the lion was clearly not there. And I was so disappointed because I wanted to see Richie.
Well, they made a pass at it.
They did. They did make a pass at it.
Like we're supposed to have a lion, and there's no lion, or like talking lion, and there was no lion. So I kind of funny because I'd say it was kind of like a play on like either one, we're not actually gonna have like CGI generate a lion,
Mm-hmm.
or two, we're actually not gonna bring in light. But it was funny that they kind of made a jab at it.
It's like they knew. They knew people were gonna be
Hmm.
upset that Richie was not there.
Hmm.
They were like,
Because it's so in this actual arc in the anime, it's called Orange Town, I believe. Um, and Moji and Richie actually play a pretty big part in the actual, because it's probably, I don't know, 10, 15-ish episodes for Orange. Ah, might not be that long.
like 10,
I'd
maybe
say it's
10.
pretty close though. But they're probably 2 to 3 episodes span worth of stuff in the actual anime. So you didn't get as much of Moji in this episode as what you actually do in the anime. Um, but they take the jab at that. Like I said, everyone that is there. So you're in the circus tent, like you said. Um, and you notice there's a bunch of people in the audience of the circus or whatever, and then you look and you realize their hands are handcuffed, they're chained to the seats, and you don't really know why, because it's not like that. So you're like, what the heck is going on? Like, this is weird,
Mhm.
and they keep going on, and Buggy, you finally kind of see Buggy, and he really starts to do some talking and stuff. And first things first, they did a good job with Buggy. I don't know who the actor is. I need to look it up.
I'll pull it
Um,
up real quick. The
He's
actor for
good.
Buggy is, Jeff Ward.
Okay, he's good. He gives off like some Jokerish
Yeah.
vibes, a little sadistic, little messed up in the dome kind of thing. It was cool. And one of the funniest things is they say something. What did Luffy say? He's like, nobody knows or something, and he gets pissed. And Buggy is notorious for anything said about his nose. He hates it because he thinks people making fun of it, because his nose, that's actually how his nose is.
Mhm.
It's huge, but I think he paints it maybe, or no,
No,
I
he
think
doesn't
it's
paint it.
big and red. It's huge.
Yeah.
Um, and so he got offended and he gets mad. Um, and in the anime, it's hilarious when it happens, because in the anime, Luffy always calls him Red Nose. I think is what he calls him, or Big Nose or Red Nose. Well, he didn't make any passes at it like that. Really, he said something and he got mad, but that was at kind of thing with the anime with Buggy getting mad. But like I said, so the bystanders of the circus are, you don't really know who they are, right? And so all of our crew members are sitting there in this middle of the circus, and Buggy keeps demanding that he gets to the map for the Grand Line. That's what he's after. They had been plotting for 3 months, and these three ragtag folks come in and destroy his plan and take the map. And Nami's like, I'll do you one better. She's like, I'll give you an even better act in price of the map. Takes Luffy's hat, throws it. He goes, stretches his arm up, and she runs out. Takes off. She gets outside and she looks around, and you find out who all the bystanders of the circus are. Buggy and them have destroyed every single building, house, store of this town. So they're forced to stay there and watch his act, for like an amnesty thing, like they're safe.
Mhm.
They're part of his crew. Um, so you realize, like, Buggy's like, I like this because like all these pirates that we've seen so far are more like pirate-ish,
Mhm.
like actually pirate-ish. Um, and so, oh gosh, it's kind of, it's weird, it's messed up. So then she finds out, she gets drugged back in. Um, and this next part, is this when Luffy's no, yes, no, I can't remember. They're talking about getting the map and whatever, and they're like, "You're not gonna get it." And he's like, "Well, if we can't get it," he's like, "we're gonna get it one way or the other." And he pulls this person over, and he's like, even if it takes rewarding my
Y
people with a pound of flesh instead of the map.
Yeah.
And they're
I
like, "What?" And you see this person, and they've got these teeth that are just like razor sharp, and so it's like Buggy's got cannibals
Yeah. That was I
in his
think that was the
crew.
nod, at least.
I think it was.
I don't know if that was genuinely that dude's a cannibal or if that was
Well, he
just,
growled,
if
and he's
you
got like sharp. I mean, they're like
yeah.
piranha-ish looking teeth.
I almost wondered if it was like a threat, if you don't do it, this guy's gonna eat you, and they're like, "Oh my god, here's the map." You know what I'm saying?
But it
But
looked like the guy could.
it looked like the guy could, and I told Michaela, I said, "What the heck? I don't remember that." I was
Mm-mm.
like, "When did he get cannibals on his crew?" But
This one
interesting,
definitely. This one definitely strays away more from the anime than what the previous episode did, I think.
for sure.
The previous episode strayed away a little bit, but for the most part, it was pretty similar. But definitely
But
strayed a little bit more.
I will say this. Yes, it strayed. But in the anime with the manga and the anime adaptation, they were like on top of like a roof of some sort, or you know what I'm saying? The city was destroyed around them. They're sitting on top of this roof.
Yeah, they're on a
Everything's
big like
wide
plateau in the
open,
side of yeah.
and it doesn't make sense. Whereas this does. This is like the clown has a circus in the
Mhm.
town that he has destroyed. And that made so much more sense, and
Yeah,
that was a great adaptation.
because Buggy's house was the circus tent in the
Yes,
anime. That's where where his quarters was, because this is like where he set up his HQ and stuff.
you're right. So I liked that. I thought that was a better change, and it made
Mhm.
sense. So I see where that was changed. Um, some of the scenes that we get prior to, I get where they wouldn't really make sense, and they would
Mhm.
just drown out that episode, make it longer. Sorry, I got the hiccups. So I'm not so worried about those scenes being gone. Looking at this episode as a whole, it felt very condensed,
Mhm.
and not in a bad way. It felt condensed, like it was streamlined. That might be a better word. It was streamlined. It felt like it was just quick and easy. A nice
Yeah.
introduction of Buddy, a nice introduction of some other villains, and how the world interacts with pirates without losing you. Because I felt like Orange Town's a little bit of a lost cause
Yeah.
sometimes. You're here like, oh Lord, this episode's forever long.
It's just
But
your introduction to like a first like big bountied pirate,
yeah,
really.
yeah,
And which we'll talk about it, or you can. I know we got one more before we can actually talk about the other big
true.
instance of the Orange Town.
That is very true. And this episode is broken up several times, and I think they do a very good job of when they break it up, because you don't really get very bored with a storyline. It kind of just go go
Mm-hmm.
go go throughout this episode. So we flip back. We go back to Shellstown, to where is it, town or city? Shell City, Shellstown,
Shellstown.
Shellstown. We go back to Shellstown, and we see basically Garp showing up with oh, I'm gonna forget his name. Starts with a B, doesn't it? Um,
His dude, Garp's right hand man.
his right hand man, yeah. But anyways, he shows up. They're in that town. They're kind of trying to
Bogard.
Bogard. They're trying to figure out what happened in the city. Basically, he comes across the cadets, so to say, and Kobe ends up asking the guy beside him, "Who is this guy?" And we see Helmeppo is wearing a cadet uniform. So I guess after his mishap, they said, "You know what? Screw it. Let's put him as a cadet. He needs to learn his lesson." So Helmeppo turns and looks at Kobe and says, "That is Vice Admiral Garp. You should know him. He's one of the big names in the world, this and that.
Is the
Um,
hero of the Marines.
he's the hero of the Marines." And remember that, because that's going to come back into play multiple times throughout the series. Um, so we see Garp walking up. We see Kobe talking to Helmeppo about it. Which, a side note, Helmeppo now has that god awful haircut because of
Mm-hmm. The
Zoro, which is
Bob.
awesome. Um, and as Garp walks up, we finally see his iconic hat. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically like a dog's face. It has like its ears down to like where his chin is. It's very cool. It's a token towards the original um, view that we got of Garp, because in the anime, when we first saw Garp, he wore this hat and we had no idea who he was.
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of cool. Nice little feeder towards what we
Yeah.
had seen prior to. I don't believe we got too much other than Garp just trying to figure out what all was going on. Um, Axiom Morgan kind of let out a little bit of a lie, saying that they're chasing them down. They're going to try to figure it out. They're trying to see where they're at. They couldn't have gone far,
He
etc.
just wanted to make sure that his Marines were safe. That's
Yes,
what he said.
yeah. So it was kind of a misdirection. You know what I'm saying? So, and then after that scene, we move back to our crew and the circus tent.
And so we start out, and it goes to Zoro and Nami, and they have been taken away. Um, they have been taken away. Zoro is tied up on like this wheel,
Wheel of
and
Death.
Nami is in this big bird cage, pretty much. And you just kind of see them, and you know, Nami's like, well, "I've got a lock pick." He said, "I thought they searched you." Well, I had four. They found three, and so she's like trying to pick her lock and stuff. Um, and you see Kabaji come in and starts talking to Zoro. But right before that, you hear this scream. You hear a bunch of screams, and you can tell it's Luffy screaming. And it pans over back to the circus tent, and they have got Luffy stretching. They're going to stretch him to death. Buggy doesn't, I guess, literally did not remember a couple seconds ago that he's a rubber man. So it doesn't bother him any. He's like, I can do this all day. Da, 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 da. Where's the map? And he's like, keep stretching. And then he's like, he gets this kid from the audience, like, we'll stretch him. He's like, well, we just got to figure out what like what makes you tick. He's like, what's your things? And he notices Luffy's hat. And Buggy references at that instant that he knows Shanks, and Shanks is the reason he is who he is, and da 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 da. And finally figured out what makes Luffy tick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in that minute, Luffy gets angry as all could get out because he's talking very bad about Shanks. And Luffy's like, don't talk bad about my friends. He pulls himself out of the stretcher thing, goes, punches. I think, yeah, he punches Buggy, and his head goes flying. Knocks Buggy's head right off his shoulders. Lands in the lap of this lady. He's screaming. Buggy is screaming. The lady's screaming. And we get our look at the second devil fruit eater in the show. We have Buggy, who has eaten the chop chop fruit.
The
And
the audible gasp that my wife let out when she saw that was, I wish I had recorded it.
mhm.
She thought he knocked his head clean off.
So we get Buggy, and he's doing Buggy things. He picks his head up, and he's like bouncing his head around on this lady's lap and talking all kinds of smack to her, smack to Luffy and stuff. And that gives you that introduction to that. And as soon as that happens, we go back, and Kabaji is still confronting Zoro, and he is now, um, you kind of find out why he's like, you don't remember me, do you? Da 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 da. And you find out that Kabaji and his brother had apparently been running, and Zoro killed Kabaji's brother like ruthlessly, like chopped his head off and took it to like a marine base to get his bounty or whatever. And so Kabaji's getting his revenge and is throwing knives or like kunai
At the spinning
at
wheel as
Zoro,
he's
at the spinning
spinning.
wheel of Zoro.
Yeah.
And you
Which
finally just you learn.
I don't remember Kabaji having a brother. Was that an addition?
No, I think that's legit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we ever saw him. I think it's previous, like before all this, but I think that's canon.
Okay. Okay. I just didn't remember, man. I kept thinking back and I thought, well, maybe I missed it, but I couldn't remember. That that was a wild scene though. Uh and as soon as we get done with that scene, like after throwing all these throwing knives at him, we go like straight into a scene back at the Shells Town. Uh to what might be one of the wildest things we've seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
Garp feeding the transponder snail.
That made me a little uncomfortable.
I'll be completely honest, it makes sense, but I have never thought of it. I have never thought, do transponder snails eat?
Mm-hmm.
So those who are used to One Piece, you know that the transponder snails are basically the equivalents of a phone.
Yeah.
You call up somebody on the phone, whatnot.
Ba-da,
So,
ba-da, ba-da.
bada, 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 which the noise was different. I don't know if you noticed that, but the noise
It
was
was pretty
different.
close. It wasn't terrible,
No,
but
it
they're like,
wasn't terrible, but it was
but
it
they're like,
was
but
different.
but I can't. But yeah, I wish they would have done the ones from the
Gotcha.
animated. Gotcha.
Gotcha. So, anyways, feeding the transponder snail, absolutely, absolutely weird. Which I don't know if we had mentioned this prior to on episode 1, but episode 2 shows a different transponder snail than the one we already saw, and that's because the transponder snails take on the appearance of whoever owns that snail.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because it looked like Axe Hand Morgan. It had like the jaw and
The
everything
Iron
on it,
Jaw.
the
Mm-hmm.
iron jaw, and it looked just like him. Um, and I guess the previous one we saw was Garp, so it kind of had like the little bit of a beard or something. Um, but it was very interesting to see. Now, after he answers the phone and he's talking on it and whatnot, the door it gets a knock on it and enters Kobe. I didn't notice this the first time I watched it, but there is clearly a like board or some metal or something on top of that door from where Axan tried to chop through it, and they had to put something up to cover that door. And I never caught that the first time. So that was super cool to see. Also, something that my wife brought up that I did not notice was there is a painting on the wall where where he's got two kids behind him and he's protecting them, and one of them is a blonde and has that weird bob cut like Helmeppo, but there is a kid with black hair that I don't know who it was in reference to because I think he only had one kid, right?
That's what I'm looking that up right now.
Okay. So that was odd to see. Especially because the statue behind that painting just shows him standing there with his kid in the hand, and then the statue in the other hand was just him with his axe in the air. So that was quite literally the only scene where we saw two kids behind him. Could totally be just two random kids he saved. But that was me kind of trying to, what is that? And to tie in something else to that scene, there is a letter opener on the desk that is just a big axe. So instead of like a big knife that cut his mail pieces open, he's got an axe to cut through, which was funny. So we finally get to talk to Kobe. Kobe's sitting there describing what happened after a little prodding from Garp. Garp wants to know a little bit more about why Kobe wants to join the Marines. Apparently gives Garp the answer he wants to hear about being a good person, about doing what's right, being a hero to people. Um, exactly what he wanted to hear. Um, tells the truth about Luffy and how Luffy saved him from Alvida. And this was the first time that Garp heard the name Luffy mentioned. Everybody else had said Straw Hat prior
Mm-hmm.
to. So this is the first time we get Luffy. Um, and so then after that, we go back to a flashback scene, which I believe the last we heard, Garrett was talking about that um, with, oh shoot, which, we haven't had a, yeah, the flashback was when we were talking about the devil fruits. So this is the
Yes.
flashback directly after the devil fruits.
Yes. Yep. And so we come back and it's so the people from episode 1 that had made the mockery of uh or not episode 1, episode 2, right? No, yeah, episode 1. Episode 1 that made the mockery of Shanks and dumped the drinks on him and stuff. The mountain bandits are back. Um They're back, and they are ready to cause a ruckus because they only think it's Luffy there. Shanks is gone. He's going back out to sea, and so they come and they get Luffy, and Luffy tells them, you're not allowed here. You're not welcome. Da 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 da. And they start getting Luffy, and here comes Shanks. Walks in. He's like, you can throw a drink on me. He's like, but you can't hurt my friends. And then the red-haired pirates go ballistic. It was cool. But we were talking about this off camera. They dropped the ball on one of my favorite scenes in the show. It's the very first kill scene of the anime. They're outside. They take Luffy. Shanks is going to walk up to confront the leader of the mountain bandits. And the guy on the side pulls a gun and puts it to Shanks's head. Calm as ever. Shanks is chilling. And he said, are you going to use that? And the guy's like, what? He's like, the gun. He said, you should know not to pull that if you're ever going to use it. He said, guns aren't meant for threatening people. And in that moment, Lucky Roo, which is the gentleman with the goggles and the green and white striped shirt, shoots the guy. But
Like
the
just
guns
just
aren't for
flat
threatening
appears.
people.
Like he just is
Out of
bam.
nowhere, bang. I feel like is a extremely iconic scene in One Piece, but instead they replaced it with Shanks as like, he's sitting there and he's pointing a finger pistol at the guy, and he drops the hammer with his finger pistol and the guy gets shot, which was still pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie. Lucky Roo, Yasop, of course, all the crew, and you get to see Ben Beckman fight.
Mhm.
And it's sweet. Yasop has probably one of the coolest. He can't shoot this guy because he's got Ben Beckman like in a chokehold, and he ricochets it off a post in the bar and hits the guy because Yasop. They didn't go over the rules. Yasop's a sniper
Mhm.
of the Redhead Pirates.
And absolutely just flat dirty with it. He was just
But
like hits
it,
everything.
it was sick. It was sick. I'm trying to think.
Honestly, between those three alone, the red hair pirates are like extremely stacked. I know it didn't really look it at this point, but between Lucky Roo, between Yesop, between Beckman, between everybody else on their
Mm-hmm.
crew, like they're infamous. They are
And,
insane.
and they're leaving out, they're leaving out a lot of the crew because the red-haired pirates are demons. I mean, they're a group of the most notorious pirates in the One Piece universe. But yeah, we get a super sick fight. They missed the quote, I think, but other than that, was done well. And we leave that flashback, and then we come back to Luffy and Buggy.
No, I think we're still yes. Okay, you're right.
Yeah, we come back because we do that, and then we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, we come back to Luffy. He's back. He's back with Buggy again, but this time he's in a tank, and there's water dumping into the tank
Exclusively seawater.
because seawater is what negates the effects of a devil fruit, causes, and then he can't swim, and so he's asking for these for the map, and he's still prodding at this Shanks thing because he knows it really affects Luffy. He's prodding, and Luffy just keeps saying like, wait until my crew gets here, and he keeps drowning, or he keeps adding water and adding water and adding water, and Luffy's like, I'm not going to give you this map. He's like, you're out of luck. He's like, it's not happening. And you see Buggy just crank the water up, and then takes us back into another flashback.
Mm-hmm. So it was a really cool tie-in on how they were doing this. So in present day, Buggy is attempting to drown Luffy. Well, this flashback takes us back to where the bandit took Luffy, and his goal was he ate a devil fruit. I'm gonna throw him off this boat and watch him sink. So he rows out there and he's, out here in the sea and nobody's able to catch him and he thinks I'm gonna swim out here and drop Luffy off in the water and just watch him drown. Well, before he can even get to that, we get something moving in the water and all of the One Piece fans out there going, "Oh my gosh, this is the scene." The basically the Sea King that is living there swims around enough times, knocks the boat over. You see Luffy struggling. He's clearly drowning because the
Mm-hmm.
seawater is bringing him down. As a devil fruit eater, you are not able to swim in the sea. It pulls you down under. That's the curse of eating the devil fruit. And so we immediately see this mountain bandit just gone, instantly gone. He was eating something, gone. And as Luffy is starting to struggle, we see a hand reach down there, snag him, pull him up, and it's none other than Shanks on a boat. I don't know if it was the same exact boat or if it was the boat that Shanks went out there on. I'm not really 100% sure. But basically, pulls him up, sets him down on the boat. The Sea King comes out of the water. You see this iconic Sea King exactly from the manga, exactly from the anime. The CGI looked very clean, very good.
Yeah, it looked good.
Um, about as good as a sea monster would look on a show like that. We see the iconic charge at Shanks and Luffy as Shanks protects Luffy. And then we see it kind of back up, get ready for a second charge, and it makes eye contact with Shanks, to which Shanks tells it to, correct me if I'm wrong, was it go away?
Get away from my friend.
Get
I
away?
believe is what he said. But yeah,
Okay.
and it's piss off. That's kind of what he told it.
Basically, piss off, get away. And you could see whatever power Shanks was using. Not going
Well,
to disclose it.
there's an audio cue.
There
You
is an
hear like
audio
it's
cue.
like a sound, and you see his pupils dilate.
Hmm.
Um, and then
Without ruining it for everybody else. Basically, he gives off this power. You see the Sea King realize that power and go, "Uh-oh, I'm out of here." And it withdraws. It swims away. It gets out of there. Luffy, thank you, Shanks, and goes over there and hugs him. And at that time, you see Luffy pull away, and his hand is red with blood. And you realize his hand is red with blood because Shanks has lost his arm
mm-hmm.
to the Sea King. And so basically Shanks hits him with the whole, it's just an arm. Don't
Mm-hmm.
worry about it. It's just an arm. You're okay, and I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah.
And that is the most like whoa factor I have ever gotten from an anime. At the fact
Mm-hmm.
that Shanks did not care at the fact that he lost an arm. So that leaves speculation for everybody. Everybody wants to say, yeah, he did it for a reason. He did it for this. He probably did do it for a reason. And we'll
Mm-hmm.
find out one day. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, we get done with that little flashback. Um, Basically, we get the parallel of Luffy drowning in the tank with Buggy compared to drowning within the water before Shanks pulled him out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
super sick moment.
It was awesome. It's a good moment in the live action as it was in the anime too. It's sick.
I agree with that.
We didn't do this. Who is Shanks's actor? Did we look that up already?
I meant to tell you that earlier. It is Shanks is Peter Gadiot.
He does
I,
a great job.
I like him.
He's a good he's doing a good job right now.
Initially looking at his actor, like a visual in there, like just a snapshot, I thought, oh, I don't know if I like him. But seeing him act as Shanks, I
He's
love him.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's good. Um so yeah, we get out of there. Shanks has lost his arm. Um Back to present day. Nami finally breaks out of the handcuffs as Zoro's still getting tormented by Kabaji for not long. Nami's out, and Kabaji didn't realize that one of the little kunai that he threw actually hit the rope that was holding Zoro onto the wheel, and he gets close, and Zoro gets him in a one-armed chokehold, knocks him out flat cold.
Mm-hmm.
And Zoro asked Nami, he's like, "What's the plan?" He's like, "You're the plan maker." And she said, "Kick the ass who anybody that looks like a clown." And so you see Buggy there, and he is just in Luffy's face in this glass, tormenting him. And you see Luffy just doop 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 taps on the glass and turns around, and you see Nami throw her little staff to let Luffy out of, breaks the glass. Luffy flies out. He's coughing up seawater, and he coughs up and spits the map out
Mm-hmm.
on accident. But instead of worrying about the map, the first thing he does to go is to get his hat. He's calling for the hat, and as Buggy's going to get the map, and him and Zoro finally cross
Croth.
paths. Zoro goes, and I mean, he is slicing, and Buggy's just getting chopped to pieces. And it was my favorite part in the show. Zoro goes to cut, Buggy just cuts in half, puts back together, and he goes, "Surprise, shithead!" And it was hilarious. It
He,
was so funny, and I pray that was like an improvised line and not like a written line, because
yeah,
if that was improvised, that makes it that much better.
that really
But it was
does.
funny because it fits the persona of Buggy well.
And not only that, but that actor, he
He
is so
killed it.
good at Buggy. I thought,
He is
initially,
selling the Buggy.
some of these people I looked at and said, I don't know if I see it. And now after seeing it, I'm like, man,
Yeah,
was I
this guy's
wrong?
killing the Buggy.
Yeah, it's so cool to see. It's so cool to see. And so just following that iconic line, we get probably one of Buddy's most iconic moves, and it wasn't as cringy. You know how I said in that last episode where Gum Gum Pistol was like not near as cringy as I thought it was going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Chop Chop Cannon was even less cringier than Gum Gum Pistol. It was like fluent. It made sense. Him like pulling his body pieces apart, shooting them off like a cannon, calling it out,
Mm-hmm.
didn't even phase me. It wasn't even a bad visual. I enjoyed it.
Mm-mm.
It was
No,
so cool.
yeah, it was easy to watch. It wasn't like he was forcing the chop chop cannon. He's like, and now I'll show you the chop chop cannon, and just like start shooting parts of himself with his knives in his hands and all this stuff.
Yeah,
Um, it rolled well. It rolled well.
it really did.
Um, and then we see that led to the demise of Buggy. Um, I don't know. Luffy is pretty smart because I think in the anime, Nami was the one to figure this out. Um, but Luffy looked at Nami, he's like, the crates or the boxes or the chests or whatever. And you see Luffy start deflecting and punching body parts into chests
Mhm.
and trapping the pieces of Buggy in the crates.
Mhm.
Um, and then we get left with the iconic mini Buggy,
That was
which is the
just his
funniest thing.
head, his hands,
Hands
and his
and his
feet.
feet.
Just so funny. I love that. Now, I will say I absolutely missed the scene in the anime where
Mm-hmm.
he launches the top half to chase after Nami, who's got the treasure, who's got the map, who's got it all. And I absolutely love the scene where Luffy decides, well, there goes his top half. His bottom half's still here. I'm going to kick him in the nuts.
And does. I
And
mean,
does. Just
kicks
absolutely
the hell out of him.
kicks the hell out of him to the point that he stops. He can't do anything at that point. And I love how they beat him like that. But this also was a good
It made sense.
change. Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it. It was fine. It changed it, but it was a worthy change. I
But
just
we
wish they
still
had kicked him in the nuts though.
we still got the iconic finish, and I was pumped to see this. I saw both of those hands go back. I'm like, here we go. And we got the first Gum Gum Bazooka of the show. And so if you have watched it, you know, if you haven't, it's just Luffy throws both arms back, stretches them out, gets like both hands kind of cupped, shoots forward, and just pushes and launches whoever or whatever is on the other end of that into
Mhm.
orbit pretty much.
It's really cool to see. And, you know, if all of his moves are as good as whip, pistol, and bazooka have been,
The whip
dude,
was my favorite. The whip looked great. Like
whip
the little
looked good.
transition on the kick. It
Yeah.
was sick.
I'm telling you what, if Gatling is anywhere close,
Yeah.
it's going to be incredible to see.
Or if we get it, we should, if maybe we get it soon, the finger net
Yes.
might see that.
Maybe in two more?
We'll find out. We'll
Maybe.
find out.
I will say this. So after we did all of the Gum Gum Bazooka, Buddy's out of here. We kind of come back to the Marines. We see At's hand at the stake. Basically, they figured out that he was a ruthless warlord over there. Not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily a warlord, but he was a scumbag leading the
Mm-hmm.
Marines, and they realized it. Basically, Garp says, "You know what? All of you cadets, you're gonna assist me in taking down Straw Hat Luffy, and come with me, and we're gonna get this taken care of." Which is interesting because you added these to the notes. In the anime, he just ends up taking Helmeppo and Kobe. So this
Mm-hmm.
time, taking the whole cadets was a cool change. I like that because it didn't just put in perspective that he picked up these two random guys who clearly had no experience at the
Yeah.
Marines. He picked up like the whole crew that were pretty
Mm-hmm.
new.
Which makes sense because you know they're probably dissolving the 153rd branch or whatever after that. But in the
Right.
anime, Garp never makes it to Shelltown.
No.
You actually find Garp. They are on a boat. Um, I think Morgan is still free at the moment. They meet up with Garp because that's when he went for his world record attempt for the most donuts he could eat and was sleeping while standing. That's your first entrance you ever really get in a Garp in the anime. But it's on a boat, or they do a transfer on the boat. Um, you know, Morgan is okay. So he was captured because he was
He
handcuffed.
was captured. Yeah.
And he's getting transferred, getting ready to go on the Garp's boat and whatnot, and actually steals a dinghy and takes Helmeppo and holds Helmeppo hostage and is taken off in the sea. And Kobe actually, this is the first friend that Kobe has made in the Navy. Jumps off of the boat, swims to where Morgan is and tries to help free Helmeppo. They both end up getting captured. And I think Garp ends up saving them or whatever. But in the anime, that's the reason that Garp took Helmeppo and Kobe
Mm-hmm.
only. They just kind of shortened it, condensed it down a little bit to make it, I'd say, a little bit easier,
Yeah.
a little bit easier to follow. Um,
Which I like it. Makes
they
sense.
did, yeah, it worked. It worked.
So, after all these scenes, we did a few iconic things to end this episode. Um, like we said earlier, there was some changes to Orangetown. We kind of go back to the idea of, you know, Budgie's been kicked out of the circus.
Mm-hmm.
All of the people have been freed. Everybody's leaving the tent, and we actually get our appearance of the iconic dog that is in that episode of the anime. Uh, I can't really describe it. You're just gonna have to watch that to really get it. You can see the differences, but it was really cool to see the dog.
Mm-hmm. He
Um,
was supposed to be guarding the store.
he
It's
was
a
supposed to
general
be
store.
he was supposed to be guarding the general store, and
Yeah.
that dog has a interesting story with Richie, our
Mm-hmm.
lion that did not make the cut this episode.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Richie, I miss you, buddy.
Yeah.
Uh, so, anyways, after that, we get a little bit of a flashback again. of Shanks for real leaving this time. And this is actually where we get the scene of Shanks giving Luffy the straw hat. And
Mhm.
he even tells Luffy, um, this is my most prized possession and whatnot. And he tells Luffy, one day, just give it back to me. Come back, find me on the Grand Line, give it back to me when you're a great
Mhm.
pirate yourself. To which Luffy, of course, took and said, yeah, one day I'll catch up to you. So, really cool to see. And
Mhm.
then, Garrett, if you want to hit us up with the final scene of this episode.
Yes. So we break the flashback. We're back. The crew is back on the boat. We're good. We've still got the map. Everyone's happy. And we see Nami sneak off back into like the hull of the ship or whatever, just a little room that it's got. And she opens this spot on the uh in the floor and pulls out this little piece. I didn't know what it was. I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And she goes and you notice it's like a little snail. And she puts it in her ear. So now there are earpiece transponder snails. I thought that was funny. I had to put that in the notes.
It was kind of a weird thing to think about. Do you think they put the snail in their
Ooh,
ear?
I don't know. I don't know.
I
That
didn't
is
know
weird.
either.
But Nami's just like, hey, I've got the map. And that was it. And you're just like, who is
Who,
Nami calling?
yeah, who's she calling? Who's she reaching out to? For those who have seen the anime, you probably already know, but there's going to be some differences in these upcoming episodes.
Yep.
So be watching. In the next couple of episodes, we're not going to see the same iconic story that we've seen in the anime. Clearly, from 1 and 2, things have been changed, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
even for the better. But I'm excited to see episode 3 and 4 and all the way to 8.
Yep.
Um, and like we did last time, if there was something that we missed in this episode, let us know. Just comment on it. Um, let us know if we were wrong on something. Just be polite about it. Be like, hey, dude, I think it's this, and then we could go, oh, here's where we were wrong. You know what I'm saying? So thrilled that you all are watching these, and we're ready to get back into the One Piece live action with the next episode. So,
Yep. Next one we'll see is Tell No Tales.
Hell No Tales, episode 3. Garrett, you have anything else to say here at the end?
See ya.
See ya. All right, we'll see you guys.